2024 from Beef Week in Rockhampton, Queensland, Australia. And today we wanted to bring you some updates on our progress with what we've been here, primarily to do, and that is not only to try and educate the people in the beef industry about what's happening in terms of the producers and farmers and so on, but also to start to change how we do business, change how we do our lobbying, and start to get the message out in a different way. Now, I've spoken a fair bit about how we look at starting to bring into business a lot of the companies who are involved with agriculture and our not only our beef producers but also our farmers generally. When talking about the banks, we're talking about the stock and station agents. We're talking about other people who might influence or provide information or advice to not only the beef industry but agriculture generally. And I must say that we've had some good meetings. We've started to look at the banks here, and actually to my right, might just pan that around, Nick, for sure. To my right here, we've got National Australia Bank, and we went and saw NAB today, and we met with some of the people who represent the National Australia Bank here. Also, we went and visited Westpac Bank, of course, and it's rather interesting to see all the people that are coming and going through the bank stands and the financial institution stands, and what they're being told and what they're learning and so on. So we have a lot more of these people to go and visit tomorrow and get information. But to give you an overview, the people both from the National Bank and also Westpac, when we started to talk to them about the main things that we're dealing with, like the World Economic Forum and the UN and the World Health Organization, a lot of these people in the bank said, well, we've never heard of the World Economic Forum, which, to be fair, I think it's fair to say that these people who are in the financial industry should know about the World Economic Forum. And I think it's a fairly big concern that they don't, because as I put it to a number of the people we spoke to in the banks today, the World Economic Forum have specific plans for a great reset. And this is an economic reset. This is economy. This is economics. This is what our banks and our financial institutions are supposed to be experts in. And, we met some really nice people we spoke to who, I appreciate how open and honest and, easy to talk to that these people were, and how they were quite prepared to say, they really don't know much about the sort of things that we're talking about. And, then they sort of told us that they have portfolios of hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, etc., in the agricultural sector, which is in itself even more scary that, they've got this much investment and they really don't have any idea in the world of the most important things that affect that. So we're not bringing this to you as some sort of a bit of a slap for the people in the banks, although it certainly should be, but we're not coming from that perspective. What we're coming from is the perspective of the people there don't know the most important things we're dealing with. So therefore, to get back to our core ideas, we are challenging now the banks, and not only that, the stock and station agents, to say, how can you adequately or responsibly advise people on issues to do with their business and their farming, when in fact they have no idea of the most important elements that are the biggest risks to our farmers. So we've got some commitments from some of these bank representatives that they will get some of the higher up people to contact Billboard Battalion. And despite what we said today and having these commitments, as yet we haven't heard one word. And I didn't really expect that we would, because we're coming at this from something they're not used to. We're challenging to a large degree their integrity, their professionalism, their knowledge, and the fact that as I pointed out to many of them, they are charging people quite substantial fees to advise people on their investments, people on their business, their plans. And with National Bank, NAB, and Westpac today, we saw some fairly serious players in the beef industry, serious producers, who are there doing business with these banks. And, we really want to start to push, well, what sort of information are they giving them? What's the quality of it? And most importantly, what advice are they giving them about the biggest risk to their farming future and to their business, to their security, and in fact to their lives? So this is one of the main questions that we're asking. So tomorrow we will be talking to more of the banks, more of the financiers, and we'll be posing these questions to them. Similarly, today we talked to some of the stock and station agents, some of the real estate agents, some of the people who, once again, advise many of our farmers, interact with them and do business with them, and in many cases finance their operations or part of their operations. And so today we spoke with both elders here at Beef Week in Rockhampton. We went and had a talk to elders who are very, very big in the agricultural sector, as well as nutrient ag. So in terms of the response from elders, so some of the people in there, the representatives, have never heard of what we're talking about with regard to the WEF or the Great Reset. But some of them are very, very aware of the problems that agriculture faces pursuant to what our governments are doing, the regulations and so on. And we've got rather a mixed response from elders, in so much as they're going to organise people to talk to us about what's happening. However, that has not unfolded as yet. But we were interested in the advice that I got from talking to some of the reps from elders, and that is that they need to be dealing with this from an executive level. And some of the things that we heard were, we need the government to fess up and tell the Australian people what they're actually involved in and what they're doing. So the natural thing is that the government, who are the criminals, who are setting us up to be destroyed from the World Economic Forum and UN and WEF and so on, WHO, the government is not going to do that, because the government are the perpetrators. So therefore, we need to come up with something different. So what we were told was that we need to be talking to the CEOs. We need to be talking to the people who run these companies, the likes of elders and the likes of Nutrient Ag and many, many others. And we're not just singling them out, but that's who we've spoken to so far. So the bottom line is that I said, this is where we have to start. We're talking to you. You will talk to others and people amongst, and then your executives and your CEOs will hear of what we're doing, and they will start to understand this conversation is happening. And, to that degree, once we start to talk to people at this level, we're going to get that conversation happening, and then other people are going to hear about this conversation, and they're going to start asking questions. And this is what we need. We need people power to start getting onto their representatives or the people they're in business with, for example, elders, and say, what are you doing? What's going on? We've heard Wade Northhouse and Farmer Wade talking on Billboard Battalion about the greatest threat to our agricultural security, and that elders either know about it or should know about it and are not telling us anything. So that's where that's at. And I said, well, then we're prepared to present to boardrooms. We're prepared to present to CEOs and executive officers. We are prepared to present to the people who run these companies. And a big part of the conversation was about the fact that they don't want to create some kind of a some kind of a bump in the road in the marketplace. Elders don't want to come out and start talking, and I must say I'm only talking to the people who are representing elders today, but I mean they're not slouches. Some of these people are, state managers and so on. So, they said they don't want to create some kind of a explosion in the market or some sort of panic. But the bottom, and that everybody that is involved needs to come out at the same time and say this is happening. And I agree 100%. That is exactly why we're starting to do what we're doing, to make sure that we don't have some sort of explosion or hernia in the industry or some sort of something that causes great panic. But the bottom line is that great panic is coming. Make no mistake. Great panic is on its way, and your politicians and bureaucrats, the most of them, are the ones who've organised this. So what we're doing is to start a conversation with the likes of elders and say, we want people, their customers, to start talking to elders as a group and start to say, well, what's happening here? Is there anything to what Billboard Battalion are talking about? Is Farmer Wade onto it? Is what he's saying correct? And I'm here to tell you that with 40 years of experience in this field, yes, you better believe it, it is absolutely real. And now that we're going to make these corporates aware of this, and we will be publicising this constantly. We will be doing our lives and our publicity and saying we are now physically telling these companies so they have nowhere to hide. They have no, oh, well, look, we didn't really know about this or that, because Billboard Battalion is now visiting them and telling them personally. And we will continue to report on this as we speak to more and more. We will let the public know, we'll let our viewers know that this is what's happening, and we're making them aware. So therefore, the bottom line is we want people to respond and say, well, why are you giving us bad business advice? If you know that there are threats to our business and our industry, why are you not telling us? Why are you continuing to do business as if it's just all good and it's plain sailing? These are the questions that we need to start get customers to ask them. And I'll say that the whole problem is, and this was part of the discussion today, is that government can change the rules in a heartbeat and make very, very good operators very bad operators. They can put them out of business overnight with a piece of legislation. So therefore, when we're talking about people who are good operators, we really must ask the question, if our Australian farmers, who supposedly at international level are supposedly great operators, and they don't even want to know about the things that are going to destroy their business, we have to ask, well, are they good operators? They talk about the next generation coming up. So if these people, our farmers today, our current batch of farmers, are setting our kids and their kids up for a disaster by not having a go, not wanting to know, by being apathetic, then are they great farmers? This is the question we must ask, because as I continually say, the most important single element to your farming career and your business is politics. And we'll talk about politics a little bit after in this broadcast. And by politics, I mean we're going to start making some comments about our old mate Peter Dutton, and we'll have a bit of a chat about Peter Dutton and the people who he's got on the public payroll, the public purse, who are being paid to, let's just say, maybe uphold the law, but they're actually working for the politicians. So let's move back to where we were going with what we were saying before. So we spoke to Nutrien Ag, some of the people there today, and the managers who we want to be speaking to next weren't there. However, they'll be there tomorrow. So we will be speaking to Nutrien Ag tomorrow to try and catch up with these bit more higher up the chain managers. And I think we've got some information from some of the people there that they'll be there. because tomorrow's a special day for Nutrient Ag, and I want to give a bit of a pun to Dolly's dream. So we've got things happening in so much as there's a day that Nutrient Ag are putting on, and I think this really needs to be promoted, and Nutrient Ag needs a big punch, a great big punch that really lifts them up for that, because they're doing a fantastic job in supporting Dolly's dream. And for those who might not know, Dolly's dream is it's a charity, a foundation that's been set up to raise money to go into mental health. That's a very serious issue that Billboard Battalion also has a lot to do with. We speak a lot to, and we're in the business of trying to save people who have issues with mental health, and much of this is being caused by our government policies. So I just wanted to say I believe that Nutrient Ag tomorrow, their green uniforms will be swapped for blue ones, and blue is the colour that Dolly's dream runs with. And they also have a stand here at Beef Week, and Dolly's dream is selling a lot of the merchandise to help fund what they do. So I encourage everybody to get onto this. We spoke today to Kate, who was Dolly's mum, and we had a bit of a chat there. So we really want to give that a big punch. As I said, Dolly's dream, be kind, that's their motto. So I want people to get behind that and support it. And once again, a very big shout out and a big thanks to Nutrient Ag for really getting behind that. They're also, taking in donations for Dolly's dream. And I think that really needs to be publicised, and we're very happy to get behind that, because as we know, not only the mental health situation with Dolly and the shocking results of that, we are also dealing with so many of our farmers who are in mental health crisis, because once again of the pressures that have been put on by our governments and by the World Economic Forum. And I've dealt with this for many years, going right back to 2005, when we started to see the water issues with farmers in northern Victoria, and then the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. And we've seen so many farmers take their own lives, very serious stuff, and a lot of it is solely because of the pressure that's been put on them by government policy. And I call this psychological and economic warfare being waged against the Australian people, and in particular our agricultural sector, by our politicians or by our governments. And I can remember back to 2017, around that time, when we were talking about trying to stop the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, and we saw many of the politicians say, we're going to put this extra money into mental health services and counselling and so on. But the issue wasn't that they needed extra money putting into mental health. The whole problem was that the politicians or the governments were the ones responsible for the mental health issues. They were the ones that were deliberately trying to crush people emotionally and financially. And that is not some kind of it may or may not be. That is the case. Those are the facts. That is the data, and that is the evidence on the ground. I was involved enormously in the shocking situations that our farmers were facing in the mental health area. And I know personally a number of people who took their own lives. I know many of the farmers who attended meetings that we were involved in, who were quite financially secure, thought they were doing a really good job, and then the next minute, they're literally crying on your shoulder because they've lost everything because of what the government was doing, solely and specifically because of what the governments were doing. Not that they were bad farmers, but they were told they were. And that's what many of the so-called industry leaders made out. that those farmers are going to go broke. They're no good. They won't adapt. They won't take on new ideas and technology. And I know I've really pushed this very hard, but I want people to understand that your governments are deliberately destroying people mentally, emotionally, and financially. So when we're talking about, Dolly's dream, be kind, we want our politicians to actually listen to that. So we're happy to really promote, that day tomorrow. And once again, a great job to Nutrien for getting behind that. It's a very serious and very important issue, and well done. So to get to where we are with Nutrien, the people who I wanted to speak to today weren't there, but the staff there were terrific and said, look, they'll be here tomorrow. We'll catch up then. We can take your contact details and put you in touch with them. However, we'll be there in person. We'll be going there before we do the presentation of letters to the politicians here, or one of the local politicians, about not signing up to the World Health Organization pandemic treaty. But I suppose that's a good segue into that, because what we really want to promote, as well as everything else we're doing, is the knowledge that we want to give people of the World Health Organization, and the fact that the Australian government is very committed to signing Australia up to the World Health Organization pandemic treaty, the International Pandemic Treaty. And I can tell you right now, that is a disaster. That would be catastrophic for Australia. They already had one go at it and they didn't pull it off, but they seem to be a lot more organised and committed now. And the Australian government must not, under any circumstances, sign up to anything that involves the World Health Organisation. But I can tell you right now that the majority of the people in the Australian government and our state governments and tertiary governments are 100% committed to being loyal and obedient to the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organisation. So therefore, we have a big problem. So one of the things that we're doing, Billboard Battalion has got on board with a number of people who want to push back and say we must exit the WHO. The Australian government must pull out of the World Health Organisation. The World Health Organisation is a terrorist organisation, and they want to get powers where they can completely and absolutely control everything in Australia, Australia's production, Australia's currency, Australia's economy, Australia's medical response, and they want the power to shut down all our production, all our farmers. And for anybody who thinks that might not be true, I suggest you go to town and start to learn about what's happening, because we are at a very serious situation right now, a very serious point in history. So I wanted to say that this in a big way is being run by the Alliance Council of Australia, and that is a whole group of different groups, people, organisations who have come together to say Australia must get out of the World Health Organisation, and it must not ever sign up to this pandemic treaty, because this is a disaster. It would be catastrophic. So what Billboard Battalion's doing while we're here in Rockhampton in Queensland is we will be attending tomorrow morning, and there's a National Action Day tomorrow. And that National Action Day entails groups from all over Australia, people from all over Australia. Write to your federal members. Take letters into your federal members, physically take them in, and just say, we do not want Australia to be involved in the WHO or the pandemic treaty. Make your opposition known in, I stress, a peaceful, non-violent way, in a democratic way. Let your politicians know your feelings on this and how dangerous it is. Many of them will say, no, I don't think that's the case. Yes, it is. I guarantee you it is catastrophic if they got it over the line. So once again, the Alliance Council of Australia has done a lot of work in this area, trying to create the information, trying to educate the Australian people, and also trying to educate the politicians on how deadly and dangerous this would be if they sign us up. So for those who are in Rockhampton, tomorrow morning, and that will be tomorrow morning, Friday the 10th of May 2024, we'll be heading down to the office of Michelle Landy, who's the federal member here for the Rockhampton area, Capricornia and Flynn areas here. People who are in the Capricornian and Flynn electorates, come on down to Rockhampton. The address of Michelle Landy's office is 72 Denham Street, Rockhampton, where Billboard Battalion, in conjunction with the Australian Fight Back Club, and many other community members, will be presenting, a letter with what we're trying to achieve to Michelle Landy's office. Now, I believe that she will be at Beef Week on the Friday, which is tomorrow. So after that, there's also people may want to come into Beef Week and present a letter to Michelle Landy or to her office or representatives here and say, we do not want Australia to be signed up to a global pandemic treaty, which in essence is a global treaty on global genocide. That is what that is. So I advise everybody, or encourage everybody, if you're a decent Australian, if you've got an interest in your country, make the time, not excuses, be there and peacefully, non-violently, and as an organised collective, say, we are presenting this letter to Michelle Landy's office, to Michelle Landy herself, and say, we do not want you to join up to this, and we want you to do everything we can. And I know that federal members all over Australia should be receiving the same letter. This is something that needs to happen right across the nation, and we need to let it know that the people do not want them to sign us up to this murderous, disgusting, horrendous plan, which it is. So I just wanted to reiterate, on Friday the 10th of May at 11 a.m, going to the office of Michelle Landy, 72 Denham Street, Rockhampton, and presenting peacefully and democratically the letters to her to say, we don't want to be involved in this. So on the thing about politicians, I want to look at something a bit different now. We yesterday had a rather interesting experience, and that is to say that here at Beef Week, there's been a lot of politicians who get around here. A lot of politicians who do meets and greets. They're doing, interviews. They're doing photo shoots. They're doing, walk along and meet and greets with the people. They're doing impromptu photographs and handshakes, all that sort of stuff. And I've met quite a number of them since I've been here. And many of them I know and have known for years. And although I might not be on the same page as them, I might call them out for what they're doing, I might not agree with their policies, we still act in a way that is professional, and that's a very important thing to do. So I'll talk a bit more tomorrow about this issue, but I'll just preface this by saying that of all the politicians here that we've actually met or seen, I saw Peter Dutton yesterday. Now, Peter Dutton, for those who may not know or even care, is the leader of the federal opposition in Australia here. And Peter Dutton was getting around trying to do the meet and greet thing as far as I could see. And how would you say? Peter Dutton, I would think, will be very embarrassed or very ashamed at what I'm alluding to, which we'll finish up on this tomorrow. But I think that Peter Dutton, I don't see how Peter Dutton could be any decent kind of a leader here. I think he's a man of no integrity. These are my opinions from what I've seen. I think Peter Dutton is very, very frightened to speak publicly or to even meet some people publicly. And I just wonder why that is. I just think to myself, I've met a lot of politicians, a lot of bureaucrats over the years, and I've never come across one. Well, I probably have, but I think Peter Dutton's conduct is disgraceful. I think it's reprehensible, and I think that I could call out his integrity. I could call out his honesty. I think I could call out whether he's a decent bloke, whether he's fit to be a Prime Minister possibly in the future, or whether he's even fit to run, one of the Boy Scout troops. So we'll be talking a lot more about Peter Dutton and the people around him. I think it's very, very important to keep in mind who's around him on a daily basis, who travels with him, and what their antics are, whether they're taxpayer-funded operatives, and whether or not they have integrity, whether they have decency, or whether the people around Peter Dutton are in fact paid to, make sure he doesn't answer very many questions, whether he doesn't have to answer a question or even talk to somebody who doesn't agree with him. So it's very interesting that we saw a lot of information from the leaders or the people who organise Beef Week here in Queensland about anybody handing out political information or having pamphlets or signs or what have you, and then what we've seen actually happen. So there's a lot going on here at Beef Week, and some things happened yesterday that I was completely and absolutely disgusted with. And I think that we need to call that out in the interest of public safety and in the interest of integrity and honesty, and in the interest of letting people know, about exactly what kind of people our so-called political leaders are and the people around them, much more importantly. So we'll speak to this issue tomorrow. We gave it today for the people who have done the things I'm talking about to make it right, for the people to perhaps make some sort of an effort to apologise. And these are the people who directly did the things I'm talking about. They personally should be apologising. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen one bit of integrity from what I classify as violent people that we've been talking about, the people around Peter Dutton. So let's just have a little bit of a look and see how this goes. We'll talk about this a lot more tomorrow, and we will continue to push this because the Australian people need to know exactly who they're dealing with and what their antics are. And, I always push for, when we're dealing with our politics, integrity, non-violence, democratic processes, and the right way of doing things. When very, very sadly, what we've seen here in Queensland, in Rockhampton, in fact, is the exact opposite. And I'm not talking about from any kind of protesters or lobbyists. I'm talking about from one of the politicians in particular. And I'm talking about Peter Dutton and the people who are very, very close to him, who move with him and their colleagues. So we will get a lot deeper into this tomorrow. So rightio, we'll call it quits at that. That's about a wrap up for today's things that have happened here at Beef Week. Tomorrow we might get the camera going and we might do a walk around, and we might let people see the site here, see quite a lot of the venues, quite a lot of the activities that are happening and the people who are here. It is very interesting. Beef Week is certainly worth visiting, but it would be very, very nice to see them actually taking seriously the very threats to the whole reason that they're here, and that is the beef industry, the agricultural sector, and its destruction at the hands of our government and the people that they work for. All right, thanks very much, people. We'll call it quits at that, and we'll sign off and